Hello, friends, and welcome back to r/ProRevenge. Let's start with the story in which our OP punished his awful manager. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. If you don't like it, you can clock out and go home. An old story from about 10 years ago, but I still giggle about it sometimes. I've been working in a well-known fast food restaurant and only just started maybe 2 weeks ago or so. They gradually trained me on the two main stations in the kitchen. First the chicken station, aka deep fryers, then the burger station, aka the grill. But the chips/fry station is always busy, so they were delaying training new employees until a slow morning came on a weekend or some other freak event caused the chips to get slow. One day, the restaurant got busy, and for whatever reason, the manager decides to put me on the chips. Someone probably called in sick or was a no-show. I informed him that I've had zero training on the fries, but I can handle either of the other stations effectively. He didn't care and put me on fries regardless. To no surprise, I was inefficient on that station, figuring out the process myself from what I saw the others do while working another station. I didn't know the best timing, my portions were all over the place, orders started piling up, and instead of helping in any way, the manager was standing behind my back, literally breathing on my neck, criticizing every little bit of it. Your fries are burning. You're running out of fries. You brought too many bags from the freezer. The other bag will be soggy by the time you open it. Your portions are too small. You're too slow. At one point, he grabbed a pack of chips and asked me, "Look at this portion. If you were a customer, would you pay for it?" Finally, I told him that instead of standing behind me and criticizing every move, he could jump in to help or train me, or at least give me some basic hints to get me started. To this, his response was something along the lines of, "Well, the restaurant's busy and you're too slow. You need to be faster, and if you don't like it, you can clock out and go home." All of this is about 2.5 meters away from customers, mind you. Before his mouth could close after saying that, I've already turned on my heel and started marching towards the clock. He caught up with me at the clock. "What are you doing?" "Clocking out." "You can't just clock out." "Yes, I can. You said yourself I can clock out and go home," while marching towards the staff room/changing room. "You think you can just leave in the middle of a busy day? You know there's 1,000 people out there waiting to get your job. And there's 1 million minimum wage dead-end jobs out there that I can do tomorrow instead of this. I don't get paid enough to deal with your bullcrap." And our next story. Okay, on call it is. This isn't my story. It was told to me by the brother of the main character. He's a poker buddy, and he told me his brother's tale. Let's call him Bob. He worked in a law office as one of 2 IT techs. The company had several branches, so there were a few dozen admin people in head office, handling everything from billing to payroll to supplies. You get the idea. All the branches could access the central server/database. Bob's boss was the IT manager, and he resigned to move to greener pastures. There was one other IT tech, but he was on and off the job due to health reasons, so when the IT manager quit, Bob was 90% certain he would get the promotion. Guess again. They rolled his position under the office manager to save budget for the IT manager salary. Speaking of budgets, each time Bob performed a task, he would have to record it so that it could be internally billed to the correct department. The office manager had very little in the way of a clue on how to resolve even the simplest IT issues. For those of you who don't know, you need IT people like you need firemen. Not for a fire, but in case there's a fire. Bob had a vacation scheduled and the office manager was in a bind. If an issue popped up, he wouldn't be able to fix it. Bob said, "No problem, boss. I can handle things on an on-call basis. Just be sure to add roaming to my cell phone as I'll be in Mexico." He put it into an email and cited the relevant on-call section of his contract. Since the office didn't cover more than one time zone and most staff were Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., the on-call issues were few and far between, averaging 1 to 2 a month if that. Any issue at all required a service ticket for tracking, but after-hours on-call tickets were compensated at a minimum 3 hours pay per issue. Most issues were pretty simple and usually PEBCAC related. The emails from X-Client keep landing in my junk folder. We have a new customer, Y-Client, and we need to whitelist their domain. How do I set up a filter in Outlook? So Bob set up his phone to say, "I'm on vacation but still on call. If you have an urgent problem, please submit a service ticket." He did something similar with his away message for his email. Then Bob headed for the beach. Office dingbats can't tell the difference from an urgent issue and a routine one, and he was getting 5 or 6 tickets a day. He hotspotted his phone and remoted into their desktops, and in most cases was able to resolve the issue in minutes. When he got back, he submitted his timesheets, and HR went nuts. He was billing 12, 15, 18 hours a day, and managers of various departments were questioning why they were being hit for these tickets when mundane issues like these were usually handled by Bob when he was on his regular salary. Bob simply showed them the email with his office manager's approval to run an on-call basis and showed them the relevant section of the contract. Then they got the phone bill. The office manager never added roaming, so all voice calls were at international rates, and so was data. When asked why he didn't just use the hotel Wi-Fi, he replied, "It's corporate policy not to transfer sensitive information over an unsecure connection, and I have no idea if the hotel's connection was safe." All in all, Bob made enough on his vacation to cover the entire cost and then some. By the end of each of the 2 weeks, he was fixing a ticket in 10 minutes and collecting 3 hours at double time for it. And our last story. Half-brothers threatened to sue me over $16K. It cost them $158K and possibly their parents' marriage. When I, 25-year-old female, was 3, my grandparents passed away. They set up a savings account in my name. The account was meant to be accessed by me when I was 21. At that point, it contained just over $300,000. My grandparents left me a letter saying they would like me to share the money fairly with any other Smith-Jones children, meaning my full siblings. Dad's a Smith, Mom's a Jones. By fairly, that meant they wanted me to assess the situation and judge for myself what was fair. I never had full siblings, but I have 2 half-brothers, Mac and Joe Smith, who are dad and stepmom's kids. Due to the specific wording my grandparents used, I legally never had to give Mac or Joe any money. However, I see Mac and Joe as my brothers, and the money came from our grandparents, and I felt that the fairest thing to do would be assign each of us $100K, so we all got an equal-sized lump sum, and I figured that when Mac, the youngest, turned 21 and took his $100K, we could split any remaining money. When I turned 21, Dad suggested I buy a house with my $100K. I found a place I loved, but it was $130K, and I couldn't get a mortgage. So Dad said I should just borrow $30K from the account. I did, figuring I could pay it back before my brothers turned 21, and I have been repaying it. The account should be at $208K right now, but due to me withdrawing and then repaying that money, it's at $195. So I still owe $13K. Joe turned 21 recently, and as I was giving him his $100K, Joe noticed there was less in the account than there should be. I explained and said it was going to be put all back in before Mac, now 19, turns 21. Joe told Mac, and both boys said I stole from them and owed them the full $13K back plus $3,000 of interest that they felt they would have gotten. And they wanted it all paid by this summer, which gave me less than 6 months to bring the account up to $211K. I said I'd do it, but over 2 years as planned. The boys then wrote up a contract to that effect. I went to sign it until I saw it said 6 months to pay it all back. I wouldn't sign as we agreed on 2 years. They said I should figure it out as they were entitled to that money and would be seeking legal advice. Later that day, I got an email clearly written by them saying that they intend to sue me for the $16K plus whatever is currently in the account, and additional damages and emotional distress on top of that. At this point in time, I'd given Joe about 50 of his $100K because he wanted it in installments. I responded that legally they were never entitled to any of it, and given their attitudes, I'd say they've already received an amount I deem fair. So that $50K was all they were getting. I then got a barrage of texts, calls, and emails yelling at me for going back on our deal. I blocked them. They then took it to social media, saying I was trying to screw them out of their inheritance and rallying our extended family into harassing me over this, and it mostly worked, as a lot of people messaged me. However, I got a message from this guy called Chris Smith. Chris said he was 27 and claimed to be my half-brother. I'd never met him before, but he sent me photos of him as a kid with our dad, grandparents, and me. He showed me that he also had an account with $150K in it, and a scan of a letter from our grandparents saying this money was meant to be shared fairly among Dad's illegitimate children. Chris also told me we have another half-sibling who's 18. He'd been looking for me for a while, but only found me when Dad shared Joe's post, which had me tagged. We checked with the solicitor to make sure, as the boys are legitimate, they aren't entitled to anything in Chris's illegitimate kid fund, and as they are my half-siblings, they aren't entitled to anything in my Smith-Jones kids fund either. I sent the boys a letter formally telling them to back off, stop posting about me online, and enjoy the $50K because it's all they're getting. The day they received the letter, Chris got a PM from Dad asking if the boys can have some of Chris's fund. Chris also said no and told Dad we'd met. I told Mac and Joe about Chris and our other half-sibling with Chris's permission. So it looks like my grandparents, knowing about Chris before they passed, set up 2 funds. One for the kids Dad had with my mother, who was still his wife when they passed, and one for the children born out of Dad's affairs, presumably to make sure no one tried to screw anyone else over out of hurt feelings. I'm getting a lot of crap, but holding firm on my decision. The boys have realized that I won't back down on this, and it sounds like I've caused a schism at their house, as Joe has all the money and no intention of sharing it, so Mac is now feeling twice as screwed. Plus, stepmom apparently didn't know about the other half-siblings, or that my half-sister was born after she and Dad got married. And she's made Dad move into a hotel. Sounds like Dad's looking for a long-term living arrangement outside of the family home, because it looks like she's not letting him move back in. Dad is begging me to reconsider, but honestly, I'm done with all of them, except Chris and my sister. Your grandparents were pretty forward-thinking. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next one.